Episode 06, Digital Circus premiered and brought unforgettable moments, packed with action that grabs your attention from start to finish. But did you catch all the hidden secrets that could totally change how we understand this story? Daisy Bell. The 6th episode of Digital Circus is basically a pearl of pure trolling. Everything happens when Jax and Pomni decide to sing Daisy Bell to Zooble. Now here's the important detail. Zooble had already said more than once that she hated when someone sang that song to her. In other words, not only did the two of them ignore the warning, they actually thought, perfect, then that's exactly what we're gonna do. Classic friendship move, using against your friend the one thing they can't stand. And check out the guts. They didn't pick just any random song. They went straight for Daisy Bell, a tune from 1892. That's older than most of the dad jokes at a family barbecue. But here's the nerdy twist that makes it even better. This was the very first song ever used in computer synthesis. So not only did they manage to annoy Zooble, they also threw a huge tech reference right in her face. Now, think about it. The characters were already trapped in a digital dimension with circus aesthetics, full of strange creatures who also fell into the same trap. It's the perfect torture. It doesn't hurt physically, but it shreds your patience. Jax and Pomni could easily win the award for Best Comedy Villains because they turned digital culture itself into a weapon of mockery. Today, we're going to uncover the 12 hidden secrets in the 6th episode of Digital Circus. So come along with us for another video. Jax Bugs Bunny. Once the competitions start, things get even more intense. Jax decides to go after Ragatha, dead set on taking her team down once and for all. She, desperate, tries to hide, until, out of nowhere, he shows up upside down and drops the classic line, "What's up, Doc?" And that's when the brilliant detail happens. This line is a direct reference to Bugs Bunny, the most sarcastic rabbit from Looney Tunes. And it makes total sense, because Jax is also a rabbit, just a purple one. He's basically like Bugs Bunny's alternate version, some distant cousin who ditched the carrots and joined a crazy digital circus instead. The scene works like a wink for anyone who loves cultural references. On one hand, there's the tension of the chase, and on the other, a moment that completely breaks the serious mood with a timeless joke. This type of humor never gets old, because messing with iconic catchphrases is almost always guaranteed to get a laugh. Butterfly. Everyone was gathered trying to decide what the next game would be when Cain suddenly hands Jax a gun. The idea was simple and totally insane. Play Russian roulette. Jax, of course, agrees without a second thought. Except on the first try, he completely botches the game. So Cain decides to improvise. He orders everyone to pair up. One runs, the other shoots. Basically, it's tag with ammo, because apparently hide and seek was just way too outdated. But right from the start, Ragatha is already at a disadvantage, beginning the match with one life less. Total tension. That's when Kinger shows up and restores her life using the mysterious butterfly. That's when the mystery kicks in. She stops and wonders how he knew about the butterfly trick. Did someone tell him? Or was he hiding something? This really raises suspicion, because Kinger is the oldest of the group, even called the crazy one by the others. But what if that reputation of being nuts is just a cover? If he knew a detail no one else knew, maybe he's hiding secrets about the digital circus itself. Weapons. When Cain drops the weapons, the first impression is, only normal guns show up, in black, gray, and brown. Nothing flashy at all. But then comes the detail sharp eyes couldn't miss. In the next scene, a red gun appears with a weird shape, and on the side it says Impimi, which looks a lot like the Supreme logo. There's no way to miss the reference. It's a clear wink at the clothing brand, a true Easter egg hidden right in the middle of the action. The weirdest part? Right after, the gun simply disappears and never shows up again in the episode. It's like the creators were teasing us, a quick visual secret, hidden in plain sight, and the feeling you're left with is, blink, and you missed it. Before we keep uncovering the 12 hidden secrets in the 6th episode of the amazing Digital Circus, drop a comment down below. Duo. Fingers. The Digital Circus is an insanely fun show, packed with little hidden jokes. A perfect example is when Cain says they only have 5 minutes left and, to illustrate, he raises one of his hands. But wait, his hands only have 4 fingers. So, With all the subtlety in the world, he raises his other hand to make it a full 5 fingers. It's almost like a magic trick, but done just to get a laugh out of whoever notices the gag. This joke isn't random. It's actually a subtle way of poking fun at animation itself. Most likely, the show is referencing an old issue in the world of cartoons. Animating hands with 5 fingers was once considered complicated and expensive. Even Disney went along with this. Characters like Mickey Mouse also only have 4 fingers. The choice was practical. Cut costs and make animation easier without sacrificing the character's charm. Cain and Abel. One of the most interesting and subtle references in the show happens when Jax is teaching Pomni how to shoot. When she holds the gun, you can clearly see written on it, Cain and Abel. A direct wink at the famous biblical story of the 2 brothers who ended up taking sibling rivalry to the extreme. The intention here is almost obvious. The show is joking with the idea of brutal rivalry between siblings, or in this case, between duos forced to compete in a completely controlled environment. It's that perfect mix of dark humor and cleverness, and it makes total sense in the context of the episode. The characters are all gathered, forced to pair up and fight each other. No one can hide, no one can slack off. Everyone has to join in whatever games Cain, the AI running the place, invents. Basically, the environment is like a digital arena of competition, where every move is watched and every mistake could cost you dearly. The Cain and Abel reference works as a spot-on metaphor. Extreme rivalry, constant tension, and that feeling that everyone's at risk all the time. But the show doesn't let things get too heavy. The gag is delivered in a funny way, blending the drama of the competition with visual humor. The gun with Cain and Abel written on it is almost like an Easter egg for anyone paying attention to details, as if it's saying, "You think this is just a game?" The rivalry's already baked in, and the irony gets even funnier because, despite the tense atmosphere, the characters are still irreverent cartoons, exaggerated and full of expressions that make everything hilarious. Ragatha. During Jax's crazy chase against Ragatha, things get both serious and funny. He manages to take away several of her lives, racking up points, until the moment of the final shot comes. But before he can land the decisive hit, she pulls a classic cartoon move. She sticks her finger in the barrel of the gun. The result? Jax loses a life right then and there. It's impossible not to think of the wild antics of old-school cartoons, especially Woody Woodpecker, where characters bend logic so far that even physics becomes part of the comedy. But the scene also carries an extra layer of meaning. Even though Jax insists he doesn't care about human emotions, you can clearly see anger bubbling in him. He unleashes all of that anger on Ragatha, not just as part of his strategy, but because he simply hates being contradicted. Saw. On top of that, this game has a curious detail. It can be seen as a clear reference to Saw. Just like in the movies, the characters are thrown into a controlled environment and are forced to fight each other to stay alive. But there's a cruel rule. They can't truly cooperate, because in the end, only one duo can come out as winners. It's that perfect mix of insane suspense and tension. The situation is dramatic and funny at the same time. The characters are running, shooting, and trying to survive, but everything is exaggerated with absurd moments that remind us of old-school cartoons. Argument. During the final part of the competition, there's a heated argument between Jax and Pomni about their relationship. She believed that after everything they'd been through together, they had truly become friends. But Jax, as cold as ever, completely crushes her expectations. Right after that, they're forced to take part in the event Cain is organizing. The two of them end up sitting far apart from each other, isolated from the rest of the group. And that moment of distance adds extra tension. Jax, noticing that separation and the loneliness of the setting, seems on the verge of losing control. Something that has already happened with other characters who eventually snapped under the pressure. The scene leaves a big question hanging. Will Jax actually be able to keep suppressing his feelings? Can pretending not to care really work for long? Or will he end up giving in to his own anger and frustration? Camera. The scene kicks off with the announcement of a new game, and the stage assistant Bubble is recording everything. But here's the curious detail that stands out. Instead of modern cameras, they're using older, retro-looking equipment. It seems like a weird choice at first, but it actually makes perfect sense. The characters are trapped in a virtual reality, yet the show keeps mixing past and present, showing that even in a digital world, the past still leaves its mark. And there's another little detail you can't miss. On the side of the camera, it says television. That immediately raises the question, could what's happening in the digital circus actually be broadcast to someone? Cain. During Zubal's quiz round, she's asked what she would like to play. She answers with something a bit inappropriate, related to human relationships, which immediately causes a small glitch in Cain's system. This moment is a very subtle reference. It shows that there are forbidden topics within the virtual environment, subjects the characters were simply not programmed to discuss. In other words, even in a seemingly free digital world, there are still strict limits and rules. Wordplay. The name of the game itself is a clever touch of subtle humor. Cain makes a joke using the English word assuming. At first glance, it doesn't look inappropriate at all, but if you pay close attention, you'll notice something curious. The letters are colored, as if the word were actually the combination of 3 separate words, and that's where the pun comes into play. One of the hidden words is basically a swear word, while another is slang for something gross. In other words, the show manages to play with language and meaning in a smart way, without ever being too explicit, but still leaving a wink for anyone who catches the reference. In the end, all of these little curiosities, references, and continuity slips show just how layered Digital Circus really is. And if you're into the world of animation, we've got 2 other awesome videos you're going to love watching. Thanks for sticking with us, and see you next time!